we saw the euro depreciating in the last few months.
Yes, of course.
Okay, and the question is actually, Andrew, I would like to ask you, what do you think is going on right now with the developed nations in the EU? We know that there are differences between each and every nation.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two matters here regarding this particular thing. But before that, it is really important to look at the CFTC is a major US regulator, and they have a remit over a federal union of states that are pretty much business-wise and economically aligned with each other. So if you are a Forex company or an electronic trading organization or a prop desk in Chicago or New York, you can get your technology from a provider in Texas. You can get your liquidity, your risk management from Northern Michigan, and you can get your venture capital from San Francisco. It's all aligned. The US has a federal system. There are no areas of the United States which are not aligned technologically or financially with others. The European Union is a union, a federal, how the European Commission would like to see it, as a federal union of states which are totally different in terms of economic activity, culture, business ethic. You have Britain, which has all of the electronic trading industry for most of the world on the interbank market. Then you have Germany, which is not at all participant at all in that, but has a manufacturing industry. And the rest of Europe is dependent on bailouts and lifelines from the European Central Bank.
So can we say that the German economy is the only economy that performs well right now?
No.
No. What else? Or you're saying that the German economy is not performing well right now as well?
I think it's not sustainable because it's a very traditional manufacturing base. They don't have any electronic. There's no financial sector in Germany at all to speak of. There are some German banks. You see, Deutsche Bank is a publicly traded bank which handles a large amount of FX order flow. But it does it from London, does it from Singapore.
Why is that? Why does it from London?
Because there's no order flow demand within Central Europe. All of it is coming from if you've got an interbank market. It can get a LIBOR, the London Interbank offered rate, by being in London. It can station its co-location of servers in Equinix's London server base, so you have low latency for all the commercial participants. It has a big relationship in terms of transferring orders between all the other banks within London. So you have that, but again, most of their order flow is within the banks and also abroad, away from Europe. So what you have here is a representation of those which are commercial traders looking as though they are not going to take much more risk with it, and then hedging, which is actually surprisingly going up when you consider that within the United States, the CFTC last week published statistics that actually the retail and commercial Forex assets under management by all US Forex companies is at a multi-year low. $550 billion. It's a multi-year low. So there are customers that are whether they're commercial or retail, are taking very little risk, and they are keeping their assets out.
It presents risk aversion theme in the market right now, and of course we have a lot of reasons to be afraid from the upcoming movements in the market.
And I think the other factor is that you've got. For example, Switzerland, there is no precedent and there's no need and there's no stipulation of law that says that a central bank must notify any participants before they remove a benchmark or a peg. Switzerland did it very quickly, without any evidence, without any pre-warning. That's normal. But you see, now we've got companies pre-warning. You have just yesterday, and this is, as to my knowledge, never happened before, Barclays took their BARX platform, which is a proprietary trading platform that belongs to Barclays. It's mostly commercial customers. They are they are mostly these participants, the commercial traders, and it is connected directly to liquidity through a fixed protocol to bank liquidity providers, and Barclays operates it and owns it. They issued a warning that they are the BARX system may be exposed to extreme volatility today.
Why is that?
Because of the euro situation that we previously talked about. They actually issued a warning to their traders to be very careful trading the euro. That's never happened before.
We had I saw some warning from FXCM as well before the weekend.
They did.
Before the weekend, they mentioned that we can see a significant price gap at the beginning of the trading.
Right, so where do you think that will lead? If you've got BARX, which is a proprietary system developed in-house for Barclays customers, and they are issuing warning about trading the euro, where will that lead?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's better than the S&P action. Without any warnings, we are exposed. It's a potential exposure to corruption. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. And of course, we can, those entities. I'm not saying that was what happened with the S&P case, but it can happen in the future where some organization will not provide any warning about its upcoming action, and some people that are very close to the plate mm-hmm. will know about this action before it happens, and they will take the advantage. And this is what I'm afraid from. And I think that a warning must take place before the action.
I think that's right.
Your bottom line on this topic, developed nations in the EU. Anyone want to add this last sentence, the bottom line?
Yeah, I think that the developed, depends what kind of development. You have two, in my opinion. You have the financial technology development, which is London, not Britain, London, specifically London. And you have the manufacturing base, which is Germany. But Germany's manufacturing base is traditional. China is now manufacturing a better quality product for much cheaper and has human resources.
So what is the main source of the EU if we're saying that everything is not funcking right now? What is the main
source? Is a large, unsustainable monetary budget provided by the European Central Bank on the basis, which is generated by a vast European government, which is socialist and therefore prints money and gives it to people, rather than has any manufacturing base. And this is going to be the source of the demise of the European single currency and of the trade agreements between the countries, and eventually, potentially problematic for many, many, many forex brokerage around the world.
Okay, so we are going to continue to talk about the European crisis right now, but we're going to shift to another product.
And it's not a master of its own destiny, like all European nations are not master of their own destiny. They have to submit to what Brussels tells them to do. And the thing is that now you have, Denmark has got some forex companies there. It has got some institutional traders there. And the krona, what's happened is that because of the Denmark's central bank trying its best to maintain this peg, you now have a problem where some forex brokerages are discontinuing the Danish kroner as part of their asset classes. Pepperstone in Australia did, AxiTrader in Australia did. There are many... even the ones who have kept the krona have widened the spread. So it's going to affect not only their own traders, but it will affect their own monetary system, because it will make their own currency less desirable. And if it was on its own, prior to the European Union, Denmark, small country, very wealthy, very high standard of living, has some very, very good quality exports. They manufacture top-end hi-fi equipment. They manufacture very expensive furniture. They manufacture sports equipment, luxury goods, and they export that to the rest of the world. And you have a small population that is dependent on exports to a large audience. If their home economy is affected by this, then they will probably choose to leave of their own accord. So it's a different circumstance. Then you have other countries which are not so well-heeled as Denmark, which will leave because they will not want to be, if Greece goes, then the debt is going to stay within the European Union. No other country wants to be saddled with that huge debt that they'll never be able to pay it off.
For example, Germany, the strongest country right now in the Eurozone?
In a way, but the problem is that you have a youth population all over Europe, especially Southern Europe, which doesn't work. And that's the problem with that, is you have no... I was at the Forex International Conference in Mexico City last week, and what was surprising was that liquidity providers, large prime brokerages, technology companies all attended, because they have got no choice other than to seek new, evolving, emerging markets with large populations who will have a young, enthusiastic trader base that will be end users to their products. So
you're talking about companies from Europe.
Yes, Europe and the US. Yes. Western companies that have traditionally concentrated on Europe, and actually these two particular prime brokerages that I'm talking about are British, and they have got there in London. And they are supplying platform technology and liquidity and brokerage risk management to retail forex companies around Europe with a European license, FCA license. Mm-hmm. They're looking to Mexico because they don't have enough confidence in carrying on with the European audience, because most of the European audience is either in a brokerage based in Cyprus that's looking at Far Eastern traders. If you go to Mexico or you go to Malaysia or somewhere like that, you have a young potential end user base which will go to those local brokerages and provide lots of order flow without the potential risk of the economy collapsing.
So actually,
you said that the composition of the European population is changing.
Yes.
Basically.
So exactly, and this can influence the future. Yes. That we have such a high employment by the youth in the European Union.
It's already influencing the euro, and the influence is going to be we will see an escalation of this influence in the upcoming future.
I agree, and you have also a different mentality. You see, again, what was talked about on the panels, on the discussion panels at the Forex conference in Mexico, was that you can get a lot of very willing introducing brokers there to provide clients to British or European Cyprus-based brokerages and British prime brokerages providing order flow. Now those young, very enthusiastic people are in an emerging market. There's a lot of manufacturing there. There's very little unemployment in the major cities. Whereas Europe, and by the government will give you nothing if you're out of work. So you have to fend for yourself. Europeans have got used to doing very little and getting bankrolled by a government. And if they're not being bankrolled by a government, they're being bankrolled by a bank where they can take as much loans as possible and never pay them back.
How can that be? How can it be that you don't have any basic to taking loans, that you can do it without having any
I
saving, any source that you're going to pay them back?
Well, this is why they're in such a big problem. 6 years ago, all of the major British banks, the same banks that are providing now 45 to 50% of the whole interbank forex order flow around the world, their retail traditional banking sector was lending money without any due diligence to people who hardly worked and hardly had any income. And the government at the time was promising high standard of living for very little input. And the problem is that if there was nothing on those people's, the people who took the loan, there was nothing for them to lose. So if it got to the point where they couldn't afford it, if there was an interest rate rise, they just give it all back.
Would you like to see the consequences?
Of course.
How it looks like in chart. Can we have the chart of the external debt of to GDP ratio? It's very interesting.
Okay.
Not this one, the other one. We have a chart that presents the external debt to GDP ratio for each and every country.
Explain us exactly what are we looking at.
This is the external debt of each nation, of each country, and you can compare it with the actual GDP print. And you can see that the European nations ratio is extremely high, 250 in France. Amazing. 187 in Germany, 211 in Greece, 151% in Italy. And
those are the nations that owe money to the European Union?
Yes.
Wow.
It's external debt, of course. And you can see that the US is around 100%.
Right.
But take a look at China. Take a look at Mexico.
Exactly.
Take a look at South Korea.
The difference is these are high manufacturing countries which export product. You see, Mexico, for example, is an excellent example because it's right next. It's North America. It's not South America. It's next to the United States. All the companies that are. You can go to Mexico City and it feels like you're in Houston or Dallas.
Amazing.
All the cars are brand new. They're all made in Mexico.
But are there? I'm taking you back because other nations are going to be influenced by the European Union.
Yes, because you see, the problem we've got here is you have a continent of 499 million people, and they have got used to living off, effectively, if you want to call it welfare, you can call it, in a way you can call it welfare. So, because even those who work short hours, and they get their salaries topped up by the government, and that is a form of what they're doing is you have adults outsourcing all of their responsibilities to the government. Oh, someone will bail me out. What about when someone will bail us out? And this now, you can quite clearly see the result of it when you start taking not being a self-sufficient country with a self-sufficient workforce that has good business ethics and wants to make a commercial capitalist economy, you end up with this. And the problem is that those who are in that situation are so used to living off the lifeline of somebody else that they don't care about that, because they say, oh, well, that's someone else's problem, that's not my problem. So what you have now is a jaded public who are not interested in investing because they don't have money, they have debt. And then when the debt just gets bailed out, and so it's very hard for forex companies or for banks or for any electronic trading participant to accrue clients from those places, because they can say to them, well, do you not want to start trading and make your own profit? No, I'll just spend and I'll just go bankrupt and then do it all over again and do it all over again and so on and so on, and there you go. This is what happens. Yeah. So you have these regions. All of these regions now are the focus.
Mention them because I think I'm hiding them in front of yours.
You have South Korea. You have Japan. Okay, Japan is a very good example because Japan holds 30% of the whole world's retail FX order flow, and it's all within Japanese companies. So they're very loyal. Their market has little, even though they had a financial crisis.
Correct.
South Korea manufacturing base. The South Korean forex transfer between South Korean banks and other Asian banks has gone up by 17% just in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Because it's becoming they have got more interested in using mobile devices for trading. And then you have parts of Latin America, which is not South America, but certainly Mexico, is large population, very good manufacturing base. Some of the middle class have got money to spend and they want to make their own way in life. They are very keen on following the US model of work. Most of them work for North American companies but based in Mexico. And you have now a very big interest in that market by many, not only retail brokerages, but platform providers, prime brokerages, liquidity firms.
That interest in the Eurozone.
That are based in the European Union, mostly Britain and Cyprus, and they're going to Mexico to start up getting brokerages in there.